Reality Museum. It is my great pleasure to welcome you tonight on behalf of our museum to the elegant setting of Sutu Palace for a special event dedicated to contemporary museography and the ways in which cities are read, interpreted, and shared through museum narratives. We are honored to host this international conference, Reading the City, New Narratives of Inclusive Programs at the Museum of Lisbon, presented by none other than Joana Sousa Monteiro, Director of the Museum of Lisbon, a visionary professional whose work has inspired museum communities across Europe and beyond. Allow me to extend a warm welcome to His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Paulo Cunha Alves, I'm sorry for my bad Portuguese, Mr. Sergio Rodrigues, and all of the members of the Portuguese Embassy in Bucharest. Your presence here is truly meaningful, as is the strong and growing connection between our two cultural communities. We also wish to greet our partners from the Romanian Cultural Institute in Lisbon and all our esteemed guests from academia, institution, education, architecture, media, and the arts. Thank you for being part of this dialogue. Tonight's event marks another important step in the Romanian-Portuguese cultural exchange project we embarked on last year, and we hope it will lead to many more collaborations, exhibitions, and ideas shared between our museums and our cities. We invite you to enjoy this evening on learning and exchange, and we thank you for joining us in celebrating innovation, inclusion, and the vibrant and vibrating life of the cities as seen through the lens of the museum. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Joana Sousa Monteiro. Please.
Thank you. Good evening. Boa tarde. I would like to address a special word first to Mr. Adrian Majuru, the director of the Bucharest Museum, and Mr. Ambassador, and also the Counselor for Defense. I'm very honored by your presence, Mr. Ambassador, as I am by every one of you. To see a full room is always a pleasure. And I will start by thanking the invitation that was addressed to me to be here as representing the Lisbon Museum, as I am also grateful for the interest that the Bucharest Museum team had, as I explained before by Anna Maria, in going to Lisbon, in understanding Lisbon, in getting to know heritage and museums in Lisbon, including our museum and our story that today has a new chapter began last October with from your part. So thank you for that. The presentation aims to give a brief history of the Lisbon Museum and how it has changed in recent years. It has been more or less a path of 12 years, especially in the new permanent galleries, and to share also some reflections on some of our recent inclusive programs. Since 2015, so 10 years now, the Lisbon Museum was rebranded, reprogrammed in its concept, mission, and strategy. The old Museum of Archaeology, History, and Decorative Arts has given way to a renewed museum about the very diverse, ever-changing city of Lisbon, with a focus on urban history and social history. The museum now has 5 sites, as we will further see, and endeavors to spark curiosity first, and then knowledge, and then a passion for Lisbon. Other than showing in different ways our collections, and other than telling different narratives about the very large, long history of our city, we have chosen to act on 3 areas: well-being and inclusion, decolonization, and the advocacy for sustainability. So I will present some of our endeavors to broaden the themes and change the language addressed in exhibitions, publications, and outreach activities in order to better convey the cultural diversity of Lisbon. The idea of creating a museum of Lisbon started in 1909, when a councillor of the municipality of Lisbon decided that it was about time for Lisbon to have a museum about its own history, like other civilized cities already had. And this is his expression. And he also wrote that it was important that a new museum about the history of Lisbon, so back in 1909, would be not only about the past, but also about the present, which was kind of a visionary thinking for that time. Well, it took a long time for the museum to come to a reality, to being materialized. There were attempts in the 20s and the 30s, and then in the 40s, it opened a first draft, so to speak, of a city museum in Palacio da Mitra, and then again into other buildings. To open as a full museum, daily opened only in the end of the 70s, in 1979, in the house that you see there, which was a family cottage of the mid-18th century. So, of course, since then, the history and art collections had grown considerably alongside significant archaeological items. So we are, in fact, dedicated to read the city, to read and to write, but reading in this way, meaning dialoguing about the history of the city and the identity values, to create new meanings. That's more important for us, and new connections between space, time, culture, and use these connections in this triangle of space, time, and culture, embracing diversity to diverse audiences. So this is the structure of the 5 museum sites, plus other 2 heritage places. Come. There are three chairs in the front. So for us, our new mission is to preserve and map and communicate the richness of one of the oldest cities in Europe, revealing its historical evolution and complexity and the people who have lived there. By interpreting the city and uncover its past and present, multicultural, diverse heritage. And it's important to stress that unlike other cities, including in Portugal, Lisbon, for geographical reasons, not only, but also for geographical reasons, had always been, and this always dates back to the 2nd century before Christ, since it was established as a municipal city. So Municipio Romanorum, of course you understand what I'm saying, under the Roman Empire. It has always been multicultural, multi-religious, and multi-ethnical. It's not nowadays, that's trendy to say this, it has always been like that, as a fact. And we serve the public by means of creating stories that connect collections, buildings, gardens, and mostly people over time and space in exhibitions, both long-term and temporary, and also micro exhibitions, and also exhibitions outside the museums, mediation and outreach activities, inclusive programs, and walking tours in the city. And of course, the city in itself is our ultimate artifact. We envision a museum where people can be curious, sense a fresh interest about the city and its social unlimited diversity, feel a passion and feel meaningful connection to the city. So let me show you. So this is the main museum site with the new long-term exhibition, of which the second part reopened, completely redeveloped last September, so it's quite new. The main place, which is called the Black Pavilion in the gardens for temporary exhibitions, is also there. Our offices, our transversal services, so the cut crossing services are also hosted there. And of course, the gardens where we do lots of things. The Roman Theatre Museum site, so we have the ruins plus a museum about Roman times in Lisbon, and also it's also a site-specific museum about the evolution of the building in itself and that site, not only Roman, but after that. It's inside. A small museum about St. Anthony, because it's the main patron, saint patron of the city, not only because he was very important to the city identity still today, but also we take the opportunity of telling the history of his life to explain a bit of how Lisbon was in the Middle Ages, so in the 12th century onwards, and also about the contemporary traditions which still continues to link in many ways our daily life to St. Anthony, not only in religious way or sacred way, but also in a popular way, because he is a patron of people that are in love, as he is a patron of lost objects, as he is a patron of the festivities of Lisbon in June. Well, you name it. He's a very ecumenic as a person, as a saint in our imagination. An archaeological site, the ground floor of this important house from the 16th century, the Diamond Point House, Casa dos Bicos. The West Tower mainly for temporary exhibitions. We have done temporary exhibitions here for 6 years in a row, and it's closed since 2020 because of the renovations. Well, they started and didn't succeed and didn't resume yet. We're waiting for that happen. But it happens probably next year. And we also have these amazing Roman galleries that are subterranean, which only opens twice a year. For those who may be interested more in management, this is our organizational chart with the sites, the storages, and the transversal services, so learning, communication, conservation, management, etc. And I will tell you some things about our collections, but of course I'll be showing them across the rest of the conference. We had very varied and heterogeneous collection, not as much as the Bucharest Museum, made up of around 100,000 objects and organized into around 50 different types of collection. It is a reference collection for the history of Lisbon, of course, documenting urban transformation and the many ways in which different perspectives have captured the essence of the city and the multiple aspects of life in it. Noteworthy collections include those associated with the earthquake of 1755, the famous earthquake, famous for many reasons, and we can speak about that later if you want, including engravings, paintings, urban plans, and other documents, a world-class Baroque tiles collection, and the objects that show major transformations of the city between the 19th and the 20th centuries, including models, urban plans, paintings, engravings. And we also have a very large collection of archaeology, mainly of a Roman period, but also from the 15th and 16th centuries and onwards. And in addition, we have also a very rich collections dedicated to St. Anthony as the most popular patron saint. So, as many of you, if not all of you know, city museums have been having a global change since the last 15 to 20 years. In many cities in the world, not only in Europe, but also in North America, Asia, South America, and even in Africa, one or two, at least two very good cases. City museums have been or created anew recently or changed in its structure from archaeology museums or decorative art museums or wherever museums into museums that are exactly about the city, not only in the past or in an artistic ways to tell parts of the city, but having the city at its core, and then using the collections to show what and how the city has been made of, shaped of, dreamt of. So this is a shift that it doesn't happen from, I mean, not in 24 hours. It takes time to make this shift happens. And it has proven to be important for city regeneration processes and for debates also about issues like migrations, like sustainability, and like accessibility as well. It resonates well, in a wide political perspective. It completely is integrated in at least in three of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Well, obviously, and the well-being, and reducing inequalities, and of course, sustainable cities. So as I already said, curiosity for me is a first important step. So if we get our audiences to be more curious, then a window in our minds, in people's minds, is opened. And the curiosity opens interest, and interest takes to knowledge. And knowledge takes, or not, but it's a way of getting people to enjoy more and enjoy more. And if we enjoy more our city, we also respect it more, not only in the actual form, but also in its history. And we like when that happens, the fingers being pointed at something, which means that people are talking between the public, between themselves, about what they are seeing, regardless of they are taking in the historical narrative very accurately or not. So some of the collections from different chronologies, as I've very quickly announced, explained. So, as I told in the beginning, after the remaking and/or the renovations, depending on which museum site we're talking, of all, or not all, of three of our main museum sites, we had, of course, to take care of the big one, the Pimenta Palace. And so after some renovations of the building in itself, we had the possibility of a complete change of the first part of the long-term exhibition in the ground floor of the building, which reopened in 2021. And then, sorry, we closed the first floor to do the same to the upper floor, to keep going, and to make the second part of the exhibition, which ends in the end of the 20th century with the new part, the newest big area, for those who know Lisbon within you, of the city, which was created anew from scratch to host the Expo 98, the Expo which was about the oceans. And after the Expo finished, a new vast neighborhood took place called Parque das Nações, which is in the east part of Lisbon. So we finished our new long-term exhibition with that new part. So we reopened in September, And it was a very happy moment for us, also the staff, as my colleague Diana shows you. And now of course, there is lots and lots of things to be done, to get done in the museum and to get better as well. But this was a very important milestone for us. So now it's the major plan is done, for at least in this building. So let me show you this institutional film, which better than my words explain how we got here.
Documentar uma cidade é uma tarefa que nunca está completa. Tal como Lisboa, também o museu que a representa está em constante reinvenção. Este desafio de renovação é ainda mais exigente quando se trata de uma das cidades mais antigas da Europa. Com um crescimento fragmentado, Lisboa fez-se de avanços e recuos, transformações sociais e culturais a par do resto do mundo, que aqui se manifestaram à sua maneira. À maneira lisboeta. Também o Museu de Lisboa passou por diferentes fases até ser um museu com vários espaços que conhecemos hoje. Em 2015, o antigo Museu da Cidade passou a chamar-se Museu de Lisboa. Com casa assente no Campo Grande, o museu expandiu-se e descentralizou-se. Ganhou novas dimensões e maior riqueza patrimonial. À sede do Museu de Lisboa, o Palácio Pimenta, juntaram-se os espaços dedicados ao Santo António, ao Teatro Romano e, mais tarde, o núcleo arqueológico da Casa dos Bicos e o Torreão Poente da Praça do Comércio. Todos estes espaços têm sido renovados ou até mesmo recriados. O conhecimento ganho com novas escavações, aquisições e investigações motivou a atualização da exposição permanente do Museu de Lisboa, Palácio Pimenta. Depois de uma total remodelação dos seus 2 pisos, a exposição apresenta agora uma viagem pela evolução de Lisboa, desde a pré-história até ao final do século XX. Capítulo a capítulo, são revelados momentos, paisagens e comunidades cujas vivências transformaram a cidade, da sua gênese até à contemporaneidade. No seu conjunto, o Museu de Lisboa preserva o património de uma cidade onde tradição e inovação convivem, entre vielas escolares e avenidas modernas, sem nunca perder de vista a identidade dos lugares e das pessoas que os habitam. Cada núcleo do museu relembra-nos que a cidade é um ecossistema dinâmico, em constante transformação. Estamos a reinventar o Museu de Lisboa, com rigor científico e olhar crítico e apaixonado sobre a história da cidade. De cara renovada e de olhos postos no futuro, o museu assume a identidade da sua cidade e representa uma Lisboa diversa e complexa. Abrimos todas as nossas portas e convidamos a descobrir, a conhecer, observar, compreender e experimentar. Lisboa.
Enough. Okay, now some slides, some photos of this new part of the exhibition. New objects, new stories. Well, new objects because it's also a fact that we have a lot of artifacts in the new part of the exhibition that were never shown before, about 200. It's 800 in total, and at least 200 of them were or never shown before or never shown on a permanent basis. And of course, some that were on display before went to the storages. It's always about choosing, right? It's choosing objects, choosing narratives, and constantly rereading the story. Let me just call your attention to that detail. Can you see the drawing there that's opened with an illustration? I don't know, maybe in the back. Can you see the slides? Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. So we have this structure. Let me see. Oh, yeah. We can see that again on that photo. We have this structure of this museography structure that we tried not to overwhelm too much our visitors. People get very easily tired and bored with too much text and too much artifacts on display, and we don't want that. So we, together with our designers, they came up with this solution of having drawers. And we have drawers along the whole full tour, from the first room to the last one, where the visitors can find more information. So it's for museum people who might be here, it's for the third layer of content, so the more developed content, scientific content, but it's also for easy explanations of what we are seeing, sometimes technical drawings or scientific drawings to explain what are those pieces of archaeology that it's difficult to understand. And also, we have in every room at least one illustration, which was made for families and children, like that one. And these illustrations are sort of not exactly as collections, but as important means of communicating as the artifacts in itself. It's bits of each drawer is one episode of a long story of two characters, Antonio and Julia. And Antonio and Julia are telling our visitors, not only the youngsters, but the adults also like that, a story that in a way complements the stories that our artifacts and our graphic design is helping to interpret. And of course, our texts that are never too long are explaining, because they add more meaning about the way people lived in Lisbon, what they ate, how were they dressed, how they, what were their attitudes between themselves and other people who also show up in some illustrations, some of these drawings, and how they related with the landscape, with the urban landscape that of course changed dramatically over the centuries. And so we have Antonio and Julia changing names, changing race, changing religions, and changing types as well. And so Antonio because of Saint Anthony, and Julia because also because of the Roman name of Lisbon. Under Roman era, Lisbon was named Felicitas Julia Olisipo. Olisipo is the most common name, most well-known name of Lisbon, which, by the way, relates to Ulysses, because he is sort of it's a myth, a foundational myth of having come to Lisbon when his Odyssey finished. Well, before going back home, of course, and before meeting Telemachus. But the full name is Felicitas Julia. Julia referring to Julius Caesar, but Julia in Portuguese is a woman's name. So we have this very nice characters. And we have, so a way of telling also aspects of the communications, very, very intense, that happened between the place of Lisbon and, of course, the rest of Portugal, since that was built as a country in the 12th centuries, with more or less the same boundaries that it still has today. And also, of course, with many other parts of the world, being a tiny country, but the communication with all the countries and the nations in the Mediterranean era, including Romania, but more, of course, Spain, France, Italy, etc., Greece, blah, blah, but also the north of Europe, and also Africa, and also Brazil, the rest of South America, and the States. So because of its geographical situation, Lisbon has been a platform, like a platform a rotating platform for people and goods and cultures. So it is diverse. It has always been really very multicultural. And as our collections are not always as fully related to this diversity as one might wish for, we have the help from Antonio and Julia, and of course texts and maps, etc. Here are some aspects of our tours to invite you to come to Lisbon and to our museum. We have a very large collection of models. The space of the museum is not very wide. The building is a small one for our wishes to have a larger space for exhibitions. But so we had, not much, but so we had to choose very, very, in a very accurate way, in a very strong way, what we had at our disposal to be shown as unique and never seen before. For instance, this model of an important square that links a part of downtown that is not the Avenue of Liberty to the very new in the 40s avenue that brings to the airport. So in this room we're telling subjects, topics like the famous housing problem. With this expression, housing problem, is well known to, I think, everybody not only in Europe but also in Europe. So how to have space and accommodation, and how the neighborhoods were planned or not to host more and more people coming to the city to work, searching for better conditions of life. And also we tell here how was and how it worked or not, the first urban plan in a modern or contemporary way. And we also tell the story of two speeds, two ways that the city was functioning between the 60s, 50s, and the 70s. In one way, in the very slow pace of the dictatorship that wouldn't move, and the other pace, a very rapid as they could, pace of development, of progress, with the building of the airport and the first bridge over Lisbon, and give voice to the plurality of our culture. And also, second, to change narratives, approaches, and themes, and include perspectives of those who have shaped Lisbon across centuries that are not traditionally have not been so represented until recently, including women, young people, enslaved people, and migrants. And finally, to bring into the museum space new audiences, more and more different people, like, of course, children and elders and disabled adults. You will see which type of those people, helping us first to ask questions, which is the most important thing, I think, for a museum professional, is to come up with an exhibition and mediation environment for the people to feel at ease to and curious enough to ask more questions. And change programs through shared knowledge and shared authority. I've spoken about this, the 3 pillars of the new programs. These are some images of temporary exhibitions, which were the outcome, the main outcome of research, innovative, we think they were, some of them, innovative research programs in the Lisbon Museum, at the Lisbon Museum. All of them made in partnership with other institutions, not only us. So we work a lot with universities, of course, but also with other museums, with associations, with foundations, and with, with experts from various walks of life, and also in experts in different disciplines. One of the first temporary exhibitions we did in the beginning of the reprogramming of the museum was about the light of Lisbon. For those who have been there or not, or wish to go, the natural light of downtown Lisbon is famous and is thought of being, and we feel it like that, of being different from anywhere else. We are certain that our light is not the same in the rest of the world. Of course, it's nonsense. The sun is the same. But we have proven with this exhibition, which was a science and arts exhibition, it was a cross-discipline approach, that yes, there are reasons that for humans, so for human eyes, to sense a different light there than in other places of the world. It has to do with the winds and white pavements and tegos and etc. I could be speaking about this for a long time. I will not. So in image on the bottom, this was an exhibition about the future. So we were studying for a long time with a vast group of experts. How could we think of the future of Lisbon, not next year, but without a date? So this was about urban planning, about demography, about sustainability, robotics, how children thought of the future of their schools, etc. It was quite interesting. We did an exhibition about the history of Lisbon from the perspective of the pavements, which was also interesting. And this one was very successful too. The Lisbon that could have been, about 19th century and 20th century plans, urban plans for the city that were not built, and how it would have been if otherwise had happened. Exhibitions about this is also was very important, called Plural Lisbon, about the living together in good terms and in very bad terms as well, with violence and with respect between Muslims, Jews, and Christians in Lisbon. But also, we had also a chapter, a part of the exhibition about our role in transatlantic slave trade. And that was the beginning of a long research project that is ongoing and that will hopefully next year will finally have a temporary exhibition about, not only about slavery in itself, but about the African Lisbon, which is absolutely very important to our DNA, all of us, and our, no? Yeah, it is. No? Okay. Okay, at least in Lisbon it is. And also about the African culture, which is also part of our culture. And the other one down there was about the vegetable gardens in Lisbon since the Middle Ages until the near future. So this was about how urban sustainability was thought of and planned for, and actually then over time. Well, just to name a few. So apart from our exhibitions, big and small, and the mediation programs for schools and families and elders, we have a very large program of tours, walking tours in the cities, in the city. It's well, I have a leaflet here only about this. If you're interested, we do walking tours about the Muslim city, or about the Roman city, or about the factories in Lisbon. But we also do walking tours about the hidden heritage of slavery in Lisbon, or about women in the Republican times, or about the new neighborhoods in the 50s and the 60s. And this helps us, the walking tours programs, helps us to take our visitors to the one object that is most important for us, which is the city in itself. And with our guides, it's a lot. I mean, I can speak for myself. We can see the city in so many, so many different ways, because we can read the same street, or the same monuments, or gardens, or statues, or even shops, in ways that we would never would be interpreting or getting meanings from if you weren't told how it was like before, and the connections between the before and the now. Always, of course, with people in the stories, so characters that have shaped the city, not only the famous ones, but sometimes the not at all famous. About sustainability, we are lucky enough to have a very nice gardens in our main museum site at the Palace Pimenta. And we try to take this opportunity of having the gardens and to use the gardens as a means to convey programs that are about biodiversity and climate change. And we also have programs about mythology and iconography of gods and of metaphors for different feelings, for instance, in the statues that are in the lake, on the lake, and throughout the gardens. But most importantly is the BioBlitz events, and this opportunity to create more awareness of how important it is for us urban people to be more connected with nature, plants, and also insects. And we have a very large family of peacocks and a cat. One of the inclusive and the well-being programs that are more important for me, or at least from my perspective, is this one, which started in the pandemic in 2020. It started in 2021, yeah, on that year. And it's a program for very small groups of people with dementia, and that we work in groups together with their caregivers. So this is another co-created program, like many of those which I am been talking about. And this one has been shaped together with the Alzheimer Portugal Association and a group of people experts in neurology in Católica University. And also together with Matt, which is a very famous new contemporary art museum, who is working very well on this topic. And so this work is tackling groups of only 8 to 10 people, 12 people at the most at the same time. They come to the museum every other week for a period. And then we have a second group of some of these participants that have the ability, are able to come, to keep coming to the museum. And so we have a groups for newcomers and a group for the long run. And it is very rewarding, sometimes even moving, to see how it helps. It doesn't cure, but it helps to create moments of well-being, sometimes moments of lasting well-being, not long-lasting, that's not possible, but lasting for some days, as their family members then tell us afterwards. And this helps for them to get back some of their memories. And of course, as we are the Lisbon Museum, we work about Lisbon memories. We work about memories of their city, of their childhood or their adulthood, wherever. So we work also using our collections, and we work using creativity in the making of clay pieces, drawings, words. And the gardens are also very important here. And a sense of self-value and self-esteem is grown, can be enhanced through this program for those who have dementia and for those who take care of those who have dementia, which is as important as the first ones. Another long-term program about well-being is this theater program for Down syndrome adults with Down syndrome or similar situations. And there is this big ONG of people that has this have this disease, this condition in Lisbon, and they have a theater group called Us Theater, Nós, Teatro Nós. And we work with them. We have one person from our staff that is has skills in this field, and they work together to write the scripts for a play every 2 years. It takes time, and the play is always very short and very simple, and always related to a moment in the history of Portugal that happened in Lisbon. So again, it's related to our territory and our urban landscape. And what's important here is that they are the actors. So they rehearse their play, their parts, and they are able to learn their parts, and they perform to school groups, to children about 8 to 10 years old. And it works as a true inclusive program, because the children, of course, understand they are told beforehand, and they understand that are different people in a way, but they respect those actors, as they were normal normal people. They are also normal people and very intelligent and very emotional people as well. The last piece is ongoing now. They're performing every month at least about the revolution of 74. This was a participatory, very interesting project with one school, a high school nearby the museum, and another co-curated program, and an artist. He's very good in, well, he paints, he draws, but he's very good in mediation programs. So he's very good in working with children, youngsters. And they were given a sketchbook, and they had many tours in the city, and they visited all the museum sites, and they sketched with the artist what they saw. And then they had many meetings among them, among the group, and with our mediators, of course, too. And then they painted one of our garden's wall, which is that wall you can see there. And their painting is still there. We didn't take it down because it's off parts of our city and some landmarks of our city, but also daily situations, and which they connect with some of our collections. It's quite funny. The Lisbon Museum, and like I think all museums should be, it's also about having fun. And we have not only tours that are scientific based, but have also some add fun to it. But we also have entertainment events that are exactly that, entertainment events, but connected in a way to the history of Lisbon and to our collections or to our buildings. Every year we have a Baroque ball in the gardens of our palace. It will be the next one will be on May 18th. So it's, of course, the International Museums Day and also the Elections Day here and there. But anyway, it's the Museums Day. It's the most important thing. The Baroque Ball is, well, we have a group of musicians and someone that teaches the public to dance, not exactly like it happened in Baroque times, but more or less like an old-fashioned round dance in pairs and in a big round, which is very fun, but also great fun, and also it's also to learn. So people learn about costumes and how did people lived in a house like that, house of our museum. But it's also really nice. There's a photographer. Some people come in costumes. Some others are, come in daily life and as they are normally. And we also have every year an event that Lupercalia, which was a Roman entertainment as well, event that was the origin of the carnival, what later became, at least for us, the carnival festivity. And so we also have like this expert group of animation, cultural, historical animations, but then the participants dress like Romans, and we have this Roman supper and different, shows of music and Greek dances and things like that. But in every moment, the fun part is preceded by explanations of how exactly it happened and how it is connected, that expression, cultural expression, with our collections and our museum sites. These two ladies are trying to replicate the movements of a dancer, a Portuguese dancer, back in the 20s. This was in a temporary exhibition about the Portuguese version of the Roaring Twenties, and we did it in 2021. sorry, so right after, so 100 years later, and right after COVID, as we thought that after COVID, everybody needed some kind of a roaring 20s. We are trying to update our way of thinking, our methodologies of work, our tools, and we try to use digital contents and to use, of course, our collections, our models, together with the city in itself, and trying to wave these parts, the threads together into building. Very good, Jilu. Exactly. Yes, no, this is a walking tour in the city. It's part of the walking tours. Yes, sure. So as I was trying to explain, maybe not very well, we try to wave these different threads between our collections, our museum buildings, and the city in itself, doing many types of programs outside. So, mulțumesc, and I'm at your disposal for questions, etc. Thank you. Thank you.
Speaks about the cooperation between the two cities, yes?
Yeah?
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure.
I mean, do we have cooperation? I mean, the museum in Bucharest and the museum in Lisbon, yes? Can you elaborate on that?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Obrigado.
So yes, I think that in the beginning, Anna explained that, and I just very briefly told you about this. But anyway, so the team of the Bucharest Museum, and I can say again the name of the director is Adrian Majuru, and also Dan Pirvulescu, and also Ana Maria Matciuca, and other people whose names I don't know by heart. They went to Lisbon in October to study the museums of Lisbon and heritage of Lisbon, and to think of the planning of joint projects. And they present ideas to us, to the team of the Lisbon Museum, and we thought it could be a good idea to work on one exhibition, which might be about the idea of Orientalism in both cities and both collections. But I cannot go yet into much details because we are still, it's an ongoing discussion. We are still in the beginning of figure out how. We had a meeting this morning, and Mr. Majuru already presented a really more developed idea on this, and we exchanged opinions and views on how it could be interesting to have a similar exhibition in both cities, first here and then in Lisbon. And it would be the opportunity for Lisbon to have some objects from this collection here in Bucharest, and also to tell for the first time something about similarities and differences about Bucharest and Lisbon, as having partially common history. So there's a lot to do. And here it will be also the first time, I think, for a Bucharest museum to be preparing an exhibition, a project that has to do with Lisbon, as we think of the 2 points of Europe and also globally. Yeah? Okay.
Thank you. If there are other questions.
Yes, Jelu? Okay.
There's a bunch of questions. I saw a model of Array Square
Yeah.
made by the great no, sorry, iconic Portuguese architect, Luís Cristino da Silva. My question is, are those models contemporary models made at that time, of the time of construction of the square, or of the monument,
of that time?
whatever monument it is, or are they recent,
Okay.
made for the museum?
All the models we have, not 100% right if it's all, but if it's not all, it's almost all the models we have were made as a project, 3D, for presentation of the project, of the plan. So this was made by him. I mean, he didn't build himself alone, but this model of Arieiro was a model to present to the council the plan for Arieiro. Yes.
Because while studying not Salazar, but Antonio Ferro's
Yes. Exactly.
Age.
Yeah.
I saw that I saw that Salazar, for example, was a fan of aerial photography. He aimed. He was so pleased as in seeing aerial photographs and also flying around those new objectives. But I didn't. This is why I asked, because I wanted to know if he was also a fan of models, as our Ceausescu was.
Well, I have no idea about Salazar tastes, but...
No, but he was in the jury always, or Duarte Pacheco, but Duarte Pacheco died in 43, so this is in the
Antonio Ferro, not Salazar himself, yes. Yeah. Well, in this case, it was more in a municipal scale and not a national scale. I cannot go so much in the details.
It was meant as a gate for the city.
Exactly.
When you arrive at the airport and you go by bus or by taxi to the city center, you were to go through this square.
It was an important, more than that, it was an important...
A square which is not a square, is no, how do you call it?
It is a square. Well, we call it a square.
No, it's not square.
No, it's not a square.
It's like, the military...
the elbow. Yeah, the elbow shape. Yeah. Yes. But anyway, it was a very important hub to link one of the more important avenues, well, after the Avenue of Liberty, Avenue of Almirante Reis, in the east of downtown, to connect with the more modern avenue that would link to the airport. So it was a way of connecting directly downtown with the airport in one line, one direct line. Yeah, very modernist. You're welcome. You're an expert, so yes. Yeah.
Foundation and the Romanian Portuguese Chamber of Commerce, and watching a very interesting presentation and detail. Thank you very much. I was wondering about the financing of such elaborated refurbishing. Was it completely supported by state aims, or was it also a mecena? So that was my first question. And secondly, I did not notice anything mentioned, and I was wondering if you also count on your activities of the support of maybe Friends of the Museum of Lisbon, as we try to install in Romania this concept of Friends of Museum. We don't have many museums with such. I'm part of the such group, and I was wondering if yes, how do you collaborate with Friends of Museum?
Okay, so I'll go first to your last part, the second part. Not yet. We haven't yet built a Friends of the Museum Association. It's on our wish list to do that. There is, though, a Friends of Lisbon Association with whom we partner. And to the building of this new idea of museum, we had, before the rebranding of it, and during it, for until very recently, we had an important group of consultants, a group of consultants external to the museum, and also external to the municipality, partially at least, comprised of historians, architects, and museum professionals. to help us think of how to move on. And also we added up to that consultant group some experts from other city museums. And we have been having a very strong international work because we thought in the beginning of these, it was very important for me to benchmark and to go to study where this change, this shift from an old traditional museum to a modern city museum, how it has been done, and where and how it's better or not that good in our perspective. And so we got to be member of the two international groups that are working very much in depth about city museums. One is the International Committee of ICOM about city museums, which name is, the acronym is CAMOC. ICOM, sorry, for those who don't know, ICOM is the International Council of Museums. So it's the biggest and more important organization of museums in the world. And then we're also part of an European informal group of experts in city museums and also in in urban heritage, in urban research, which is called City Hist, and it's based in the Barcelona Museum. So all these levels has been helping us a lot to move on. To the management part, yes, it was fully funded by not the state. In our case, it's the municipality, and we are run not by the municipality in itself, but by EGEAC. Now it's called Lisbon Culture, which is a company, but a public company that it's managed, it's funded half from municipal funds and half by their own income. This company runs the two most visited monuments in the city, which then helps a lot to fund the rest of the facilities. It also runs two theaters, one cinema, and they run as well other museums, many other municipal museums that are under the same structure of ours, but are not specifically about the history of Lisbon, about other topics in Lisbon. And they also run, our company also runs and produces, more than runs, produces the festivities of Lisbon. The most important ones that goes, I mean, it involves loads of people. They are in June, around June 13th, which is St. Anthony Day and Lisbon Day, and Fernando Pessoa, the poet, the National Poets Day as well, and other in April and in September, there are also some festivities in the outdoors. And this is all the universe of the ecosystem of our company. However, because of this, it took us very long to get to this point. As we had to tackle first the building renovations and then the design and the implementation of the new exhibition, we did it by layers. First the ground floor and then the first floor, for two reasons. First, because we avoided closing the building completely, because at least in our context, we know when we close, but we never know exactly when we will be able to reopen. So we decided to do it in layers. And I think it was a good option. And we do have a private fundraising, and more, we are trying more and more to get private fundraising, but we use that more for temporary exhibitions and outreach programs. And we have many partnerships that do not come down as in a money shape, but it comes down in resources like experts, the work of experts, academic studies, people working in helping us with communication or with mediation programs. So, which is also very important for the resources that are not necessarily all financial. Okay.
If I may,
Sure.
just a suggestion. It's wonderful to have exhibitions. It's amazing to have exhibitions showcasing the two countries. But in a particular aspect of management, with Portugal, I think being a role model from what you said with the public and private and companies support, and in the context of the Ministry of Culture cutting down, from my knowledge, and I'm sure Mrs. Director here will support cutting down very much from the budget of culture in Romania. A role model and such instrument can be maybe of use to be implemented in Romania as well. So maybe in the future discussions at this higher level, I suggest that this should be also taken into consideration.
Thank you very much. That's very, very useful. Of course, I'm not now telling about our budget cuts, but we also, yes, I mean, it could, yes, we also suffer from that. So we have to struggle and to find different types of solutions. But for the joint projects, we will absolutely need the participation of maybe companies, Romanian companies, Portuguese companies that can be maybe active here in Romania. That would be very important for us, as also, of course, the institutional support of both embassies, as I began to speak to our ambassador. Yes, there was another question. No? No, of course. I thought I saw someone. Okay. No.
Okay.
No?
Then I would like to thank you very much on behalf of the museum
Thank
for
you.
your great presentation.
Thank
and for
you.
the lovely audience we have tonight and for being part of this dialogue. Thank you, and we will hope to see you soon again in the museum. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you. Thank you.